Welcome to the SARE Ladies podcast, where our mission is to get more people that look like us participating in the real estate industry.
Whether you're a seasoned real estate pro or just starting out, there's something for everyone here.
I'm Anita Wong.
And I'm Tiffany Lee.
We invite experts to not just talk about real estate, but also about our unique identity as Asian women and the cultural values that shape who we are as investors.
Now let's get on with the show.
The following is an important legal disclosure regarding the content of the SARE Ladies podcast. Entertainment purposes only. The content provided in all episodes of the SARE Ladies podcast, including discussions, opinions, interviews, and any other type of content, is intended solely for entertainment purposes. It should not be considered professional, financial, legal, or any other type of advice. No professional advice. The hosts, guests, and producers of the SARE Ladies podcast are not professional advisors. The content provided should not be relied upon for making any personal, financial, or business decisions. We strongly encourage our listeners to seek advice from qualified professionals before making any decisions based on the content of this podcast. No liability. The creators, hosts, and producers of the SARE Ladies podcast shall not be liable for any errors or omissions in the content provided, nor for any actions taken by any listener based on the information provided in the podcast. Any reliance you place on such information is therefore strictly at your own risk. No endorsement of investments. While we may discuss a range of topics, including investments and financial strategies, such discussions are for illustrative and entertainment purposes only. The SARE Ladies podcast does not endorse or recommend any specific investments or financial products. Consult professionals. We strongly advise our listeners to consult with a qualified professional for advice tailored to their personal circumstances before making any investment or financial decisions. No association. There is no association between SARE Ladies and a guest speaker or professional. By listening to the SARE Ladies podcast, you acknowledge and agree to this disclaimer and understand that the content provided is not intended to replace professional advice.
Now on to the show.
Welcome, podcasters. Happy New Year, and welcome to season 3 of the SARE Ladies podcast. If you don't know me, my name is Anita Wong.
And I'm Tiffany Lee. You guys should know us by now. This is season 3. If you don't know us, you're living under a rock.
But if you're just joining us, not to be rude, but welcome. We are SARE Ladies podcast, and we are your co-hosts, and we are a podcast that is made by and made for Asian female real estate investors. And so what we bring to you, and we will be bringing it hard in season 3, is the education, the discussions about diversity and discussions about our identity in business. And that is what we're dedicated to, and also just building a supportive community. So our podcast is really just the tip of the iceberg. We actually have events that we host. We have a community that we have, and it's a national. We are a national brand. We have women and friends from all over the country, and from Texas, from California. Tiffany is from New York. I am from California. So we are just coast to coast here for you if you are an Asian female investor.
Actually, if you want to think of it, we're from Asia. That's what brings us all together. Subtly.
We have not reached the Asian coast yet. Well, maybe we have. Maybe someone's listening, because we have a lot of listeners from the Philippines. There's also that.
That's our team. Our team. It's just our team.
Yeah. Okay, well, today is going to be more of a fun episode, because we're going to be talking about our New Year's resolutions. And we're also going to be talking about a little bit of market updates, because, you know, this is what everyone is sending out right now, because what does the crystal ball say? So let's get into it. Yeah, Tiff?
Yeah. All right. So Anita touched on this earlier before that, you know, SARE Ladies is about education, but we're also about motivation. Okay. That's the other side of the SARE Ladies, you know, personality and the vibe that we try, the good vibes that we try to put out there into the airwaves, is that we are a community that not only do we educate, but we hope that this education motivates everyone to show up as their best authentic self, that you are enough despite what society tells you. All right, I'm not going to get into that, but the motivation piece actually drives us to today's episode, because it's all about New Year's resolutions and staying motivated, and, you know, setting goals for ourselves in this podcast, and hopefully helping you guys, listeners, think about what you're trying to accomplish in the next year as well. And we'd love to hear what your answers are. So, drop a line in our email. We have a new email address too. Should we plug that? Yeah, guys, Don't email us. Don't email us. I was lying. I really don't care what your resolutions are. Don't email us your resolutions.
Are you going to drop a live number? Because this is not live.
I was going to say, hey, write us to our new email address, your New Year's resolutions. But I realized we need that email address for admin purposes.
We should bring back We should bring back postcards. You know how you used to like Nickelodeon used to have like postcard sweepstakes?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh my God,
Postcard
that's a great
sweepstakes.
idea.
Where the fuck would it go?
We need a dedicated. It'll go to the old SARE Ladies email that we have.
No, it has to be physical mail. Anyway, okay, we're
All
gonna
right,
start our New
whatever.
Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
Questions. Okay, question 1. Okay, so let's look back on 2023 real quick. What has been a New Year's resolution that you actually stuck with, and was actually one that didn't pan out so well?
Probably for 2023, I wanted to stay healthy and be in shape, but I kind of fell off the wagon on that one. I was like at a good start. I think what it is I need some type of exterior motivation. That is like my big why. And I was on a health kick binge. I was like rock climbing a lot for a little bit. If you guys follow my Instagram, I've since stopped and I've been like kind of a lard because like I got really I think like after my brother's wedding was like in the books, I just like I was like eating leftover wedding cake for the following week, and it was downhill from there. That was May, guys.
So you need like something to look forward to, like a goal or something, like an event or something.
A big event, yeah. So maybe that's what I have to do. I have to plan a big event where I need to show up in really good shape for. Yeah. So that's what and you know what? I have to be kinder to myself because as I was falling off the wagon, I was like, you know what? I miss food and I like the version of me that's not grumpy when I'm hungry and hangry. So maybe like my true form is like, maybe I don't have a 6-pack. Maybe that's not in the cards for me. This is not a very motivational.
Well, is being healthy and is it on your New Year's resolution list this year?
You know what being mentally healthy is. And I think when I'm mentally healthy, then the rest of it falls in place because I also was in a really good headspace too. And it's very easy. And I've talked about, my mental health, on the podcast a few times. So I think being, giving myself grace is important. I used to, I know you can't tell, but I'm someone who struggles with my weight since I was a teenager, guys. And he's like, this surprises no one.
Just like struggles between 90 and 100 pounds or something.
No. Guys, I saw this tweet that was like, I hope body dysmorphia is real. Otherwise, I look really bad.
Okay, so be grace. You're gonna be kinder to yourself this year and find.
No matter what size I am, I deserve to still like myself. And that goes for a lot of women. I think that's something most women struggle with until they're woke to it. But then it's like, also, we need to maybe put down the cupcake, Tiffany.
So what worked for you in 2023 that you're pretty proud of? I should say like consistently, like, I mean, not every single day, maybe for the whole year, but pretty much it's pretty much in your repertoire now, or maybe daily life now.
I think I am more confident in I think in how I show up, like work-wise. I think I'm more confident in the way that I speak and present my ideas, and I'm willing to like walk away and tell a client to like, them's the facts, yo. I don't know what to tell you. At the end of the day, facts are facts. Like, I guess
you're less about beating around the bush and more just like telling them this is the honest truth. Take it or leave it. Take me or leave it.
Yeah, take it or leave it. And that's being kind to yourself, right? It's like, I can't, like, we were talking earlier today about giving projections for the future, but how about like just giving them straight right now? What are the facts right now? Some people don't even want to believe what's in front of their face right now, and they're not getting the results that they want. So I am done sugarcoating things for people, and I'm done. And there's a way to be kind, and it's like finding a way to be more I think you know what it is. I got really good at setting boundaries this year, and that was a thing that I thought. I know, yeah.
How did you do that? Well, I mean that goes, Brene. You know how Brene Brown says, "Clear is kind." I feel like you're kind of you're a kindness, and you're in a different way. But so how are you setting boundaries? How did you set boundaries this year?
So it was kind of sinister, actually, because the boundaries that you don't know you need to enforce are the ones with the people you love, right? And
like you tell me the SARE Ladies stuff is only on Fridays.
Dude,
Tiffany has said any boundaries with me this last year. I guess
that was 2 years ago. That was the start. You was the beginning.
So this is still an evolving of SARE Ladies.
It is. Okay. It's and I think this is
true.
It's true. Actually, you brought Brene Brown. I was thinking Esther Perel, who I love, and she's got a great podcast as well. And I think we should be on her podcast. I think
I would die.
But yes. Yes. So Esther Perel says boundaries are good because if you don't have boundaries, it's a relationship where you're melding into each other. And that's not a relationship. Boundaries isn't saying no to someone. It's explaining the rules of engagement. And these are the dynamics of how this relationship works. Boundaries explain to you how the relationship works. If you don't have any boundaries, it's not a relationship. It's something, but it's not a relationship.
So what have been some like tactical ways that you've been like effectively communicating your boundaries that maybe our listeners can take into their own lives or that have worked for you this last year?
I think it's just like being just like cutting the BS and just being honest. Like, hey, let's address the elephant in the room. I love you. I care. Like saying to the person, like, I like you. I care about you. And I think in that way, and this is I'm calling back to a conversation I had with a close friend who's also was a client like a few months ago. Is like we kind of hit a rough patch with the deal, and the part of the reason why we hit the rough patch with the deal was because I didn't want to break bad news to him because he was my friend. Any other person, I wouldn't care, but because it was him and it was so personal to him and it was his baby and his project, I think like that was kind of my failing, right? That was my failing as an agent to my friend for being too nice to him when I should have given it to him straight. Like, and I think that's why they don't let doctors operate on family members because that's probably what happened here. And so once I acknowledged that's what it was, and he also is a little bit of I'm like gendering this person. Once they realized who
I don't think it works like that. The snake's out of the box at that point. But go ahead. Please go ahead.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get canceled. So where was I going with this? I think he was also, they were a little bit of a control freak and kind of was taking like they were almost infringing on my boundaries and I let them. They were like, you should do more showings on this day. It's a nice day. Why don't you do a showing today? And I was like, there's no one inquiring because the price is too high and we need to adjust the pricing. But I was doing the showings anyway with no one coming in. And just to say to him, hey, I'm listening to you. I'm doing what you're telling me to do. Even though any other person, I've been like, we're doing too many showings and the attendance is so low that it's really a reflection of the price and the market is speaking to us. We need to change the price. Like you can't, I mean, like we're both getting pissed off, right? And I think that's probably why boundaries are important, right? Like just putting trusting how I show up and give the news, even if it's like bad news, because if I bottle things up, it just becomes resentment. And it almost became a situation where like this friend / client would call me and I'd see them on my caller ID and I'd get anxiety and I would like not even want to talk to them, which just sucks because they're my friend. You don't want to feel that way about your friend, but this is what happens when you don't exercise your boundaries. And I was unconscious about it until I spoke to I talked to my therapist about it for a few weeks and I had a home moment that it was also like a weird dynamic of like also that it was a weird dynamic that I thought maybe I had gotten over because he's also like a guy, like a male. So like almost unconsciously, I fell into like a passive, like, yeah, I'll do whatever you want. I just don't want conflict. I'll do the thing so that, it was like a people pleasing tendency to avoid like a situation where I just didn't want to deal with someone's negative emotions. So I became kind of like avoidant about it. And then in the process of doing so, I was kind of like contributing to a dynamic where it wasn't good for either of us, even though I thought that I was coming from a place of being kind by just doing going through the motions of it. But yeah, it's silly. I hope that wasn't so convoluted and this person knows exactly who they are that I'm talking about.
Well, that's great. I love that. And I think boundaries have been really, I mean, just reflecting on the other side for you is because, the whole, I think just knowing you and the past few years and like knowing it, like the ADHD stuff, it's like boundaries are so important. I'm just like, Tiffany, I can clearly feel like you're over those boundaries because things get really chaotic, as a result if they don't, you know. And so things like even with like your personal health or making sure that you get enough rest or exercise or like time to yourself or not letting those, like the bounding between different projects like get too overwhelming. Like those are, I think those are important, I think, to the progress and how you day to day show up in your ADHD, So I think that's great. I hope we keep going with it. That's awesome.
Thanks. What's yours? Enough about me. What did you do? What was your resolution in 2023?
Well, I actually have quite a list for 2023. Every year I go through, I just type everything on Evernote and then I kind of go through I actually have like me and my husband have like a phrase, basically a word of the year. And last year it was stay in my own lane. And so I really think
that's like a boundary, right? Staying in a lane, staying in your own lane. That's very,
I think circling back to Brene Brown, and I'm not sure if anybody has read this book, but she knows Brene Brown is a swimmer. And so when she goes into when she does like lap swim, right? She's always like unconsciously or consciously like comparing herself to the swimmer next to them. It's like, oh, I can beat them, or like, oh, they're faster than me or they're slower than me. And that resonates so much with me. I think because I am dealing with a lot of like comparison in my personal life. It comes from, after much therapy, comes from sort of being an only child, comes from maybe just even my Asian background too. But there's always that like, I feel like I was raised in this way where it's like, oh, your cousin got straight A's. What are you doing? Why'd you get B's and whatever this year? Or like, oh, look at whoever who got an award. She's so good and you're so crap. Which is like such a thing. So I think like comparison was something I really am still and really had to work my way through. And so I feel like this year I have been a lot better with it. And like I feel like I have been more conscious of when I am taking myself out of my own body and trying to stuff myself into like comparison mode, especially when it comes to like social media, when like comparison is such a big thing, right? It's like, oh, your friends just purchased like 5 new properties or like how I made like, an extra 150,000 this year on this. And then, or like, or whatever. So like, that's what they say. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is 100% true. So I have definitely been really a lot more conscious about doing that, about staying in my own lane and being more focused on my personal journey. I think a lot of that, how I got there, what has actually been working for me, it's like being conscious of like whatever you see on social media or whatever it is not the full story. It's they had to go through their own personal journey and each journey is unique, right? So good for them if they got there. But you don't know what it took to get there. So so I've been like also being more comfortable in my own decisions about things. I think like I don't know, some like kind of like a tangent way about staying in my own lane is that like I feel like whenever with any big decision or any decision I have, I have to ask everyone what their opinion is. Like, this is the old way. This is Anita making a decision. Anita has a big decision to make, doesn't know how to do it. Ask like the 10 closest friends. and then it's like a democratic process. Whichever wins is a decision I'm going to make, That was literally it for like basically up to last year.
How did that work out for you? Were you like resentful? Did you secretly have a decision that you wanted them to pick, and then when they didn't pick, you're like, I guess I have to go that way, or you were like just not blindly, but like just confidently following the group think because everyone can't be
just like I could see it from both ways. Like it has to be one of those decisions where I'm like kind of 50-50-ish. Right. But then, like this year I have been a lot more like, okay, that's something that is I do, and that's not great, because like my decisions can be so like they're wishy-washy, but I know in
You
myself.
wishy-washy? You no.
Am I not?
No,
I
don't think. I think relatively speaking, I'm probably the more wishy-washy one of the two of us.
I will say I feel like I'm a pretty wishy-washy. I mean, I am pretty open to people's opinions, and I think it's just, and it's not that like, I can't make a decision on my own, but I I think like I was not relying on myself and myself only to make those decisions, and so this last year has been like, okay, what do I feel in my own gut? What is it that I actually really, really want to do? And I'm just going to follow through with it, and it could not end up well. But I think the part that is making the difference is that, like, do I trust in myself to bring myself out of my own mistake? Am I accountable for my own mistake? So this year has been a lot of development of that.
You know what that might be? Maybe this is a thing where like you want other people to make the decision for you, so that if it messes up, it's not mud on your face. You're like, well, everyone voted, and now it's like, yeah.
To me, I feel like it comes from again like the only child syndrome, where I think I have very controlling parents, and so it just sort of I think I was just like raised in a way where someone always had a better opinion about the things than I did. Or someone's whatever was always more right than mine. And so like I had to really like take myself out of that.
Yes. That's kind of actually that resonates with that story I was telling earlier about my friend, where his opinion was like, hey, do the open house. I'm like, yeah, that's my job. And I'm an agent. I should be doing more showings. But that wasn't the case. I was like, I saw the numbers. I saw the attendance. Take my recommendation. And it was like, we almost got into it. Like, but I think it's good because it's a relationship too. And I think maybe that's another thing too. I'm getting more comfortable with navigating conflict in relationships and not seeing it as an end all be all of like incompatibility. It's more of a challenge to have a discussion about it without feeling, and this sounds so immature for someone who's like my age, but like I am guilty of getting into like a disagreement with someone and almost like approaching it like it's a war, when it's just a disagreement and people can have differing opinions. And just because we have differing opinions doesn't mean that, we don't care about the other person's point of view. It's different opinions. And I used to, yeah.
I think the level setting certainly has to be there. It's like in order to be good friends, just be like, at the end of the day, we still love each other, right? Or at the end of the day, we still consider each other friends. And it's okay to have conflict or differing opinions. In fact, I feel like we should invite differing opinions and
yeah,
right. Yeah. Oh, I totally get that as well. Yeah.
So it seems like our resolution is pretty similar. Like in 2023, it's trusting yourself. And I think women are guilty of that, especially Asian women. Or I don't know. I feel like maybe it's a cultural thing, right? That we straddle between being Asian and being American is like this collectivism versus the individualism. So you don't trust. Now I might be getting too heady with it and like over intellectualizing it. That could be a whole other thing. But I do think there's something that we'll write a book about it. Okay, next question.
Okay, well, let's segue into like your top resolutions for this year, and how do you plan on sticking to them this year?
All right, resolutions for the podcast or personal resolution? I think I talked about the personal resolution as like trusting myself. I find that like when you have some self-respect and you set boundaries, the
Little,
correct
yeah.
the correct people, the people that are will weed themselves out, because when you don't set boundaries, it's the users that stick around and they just abuse you and suck your energy. The people who actually care about you will respect your boundaries. So that was
Yeah.
a big aha moment for me. And since I've done that, my DMs are dry. I've not been dating, especially in New York City. Once you start saying,
Okay. We'll have to circle back to that because we'll need to add some resolutions to that
all right, well,
because
yeah.
yeah. But no, I think that's actually something that I've learned this year, and actually from a podcast that we're going to be releasing in season 3. Oh, season 3 drop. Okay, maybe. But
Yeah.
so anyway, but we have someone that's on our podcast, and they were saying that like when people like are unsubscribing from your like market newsletters or whatever, like you're basically like creating that specific niche. Like you should take joy in people that unsubscribe, because then you are getting closer to the authentic real piece of like like marketing that you are working on. And I think in the same way, it's like how we build relationships, you know what I mean? It's like the toxic people that are unsubscribing from your life, and it's like the more toxic people that are not in line with what you want to be doing, you should actually enjoy that, like that's actually like you applying yourself and being like, this whatever I'm doing, it's working.
Yeah, and it's getting rid of the people pleasing, because those are the people you were trying to please, and their opinion doesn't matter anyway. They unsubscribed when you showed up as yourself, and you had the courage to show up as yourself, and they don't want anything to do with it. You got to be okay with them. Hey, don't let the door hit you on your way out.
I think when I was like in high school, obviously, like I think like I was watching She's All That, and then like I was like, oh my god, like, and I was texting you, I was like, popularity is so toxic. I think when I was like in high school or whatever, like before that, younger, I was like, the more people I can attract to like me, the better, the more successful person I am. And then now I think totally different. I'm just like, no, the like the 5 people that I get to know on a deep level, like those are the people that really should define my value as a human being now, and it should be like no more than 5 people.
Yeah,
I'd be
yeah.
lucky to have 5 people. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. Quality over quantity. You're the average. What's that saying? You're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So choose wisely.
Yeah. So
I drag my group average down. You never want to be the smartest person in the room. So you have room to grow. But I bring the group average down. No, I'm kidding.
So you're gonna possess more of your authentic self. Yeah, I think for me too. I don't know. This year has been. I have I usually go through New Year's resolutions like pretty. I feel like I go through them pretty religiously. I love it. It's like my favorite time of the year. I'm sure it's not a surprise to you, but I love it. But then this year has been kind of different for me because I'm having my first kid in March. So I feel like, why would I make any resolutions where it's just gonna be thrown out the window? So, but I feel like I've been having more resolution in myself on, I think, like not fixing the things, but trying to be the best version I can be before motherhood as I possibly can. So then I don't, I don't I end up being the best mother I possibly can at this point, right? Even like, not to say that I need to be perfect, but I want to definitely try to do my best. And I think it's very motivating, especially in that realm of like showing as your true self and being more resolute. That's a goalpost for me. Like, all right, I have until March to basically flush out a lot of the immaturity as I possibly can. So, and being part of that is like being resolute, right? It's like, how can I be more of a foundation so that someone else can start standing on it?
Ooh.
So,
You know what's
yeah.
crazy is you're gonna be someone's role model. Like her. Oh, oops! I just gendered your baby. Like her. Shit,
No,
cat's
it's
out of
fine.
the bag. Is that
Baby
okay?
is the girl. Okay.
All right.
It's fine.
But I think, like, as a daughter, like, especially because this is a ladies podcast, right? We're gonna have the littlest SARE ladies joining us in March. I think in this like vein of talking about resolutions and saying, like, I almost feel like resolutions should be like self-improvement should be an ongoing journey that every day we show up to be the best version of ourselves. I think like assigning a March deadline just because that's the due date is putting unnecessary pressure on yourself, Anita. And I will set you free in this way. I don't think you're that immature. What?
We just all need a deadline to be like, okay, this is the milestone, or
Well,
this is like
what kind of immaturity do you think you need to get rid of before an infant that gets here who just literally needs to be fed and like the first year? She's like, I promise you, like.
Okay, well, I feel like let's just say one. I think that this is something that I have been trying to work on. I mean, like just it's conscious in my mind, because I mean, this is my first time, my first kid, so I'm just diving into like oh my god, the mommy stuff is insane, and there's like the spectrum of like the moms that are kind of like out there is it's a little intense. I will say the least, and so I feel like there's like certain set of moms that are very like protect my kid at all costs, like like martyrs, and then also like the germaphobe moms, or just like really in this like protection bubble, like I will place it in a bubble and then never let go, and I think I mean, obviously that's amazing, but it's also some parts like it can be a little bit too intense. And so I feel like I want to be a little bit more conscious of like what is the purpose of me wanting to be a mom or wanting to be a parent? Is it for myself? Is it to like protect something? Or am I going to approach having a daughter with the scarcity mindset, that she's always constantly going to die? And I was like, because that is a black hole in itself, and
Have
so
you
I feel like
that question for yourself? Like, what kind of mom do you want to be? Because we're talking a lot in the abstract right now. I want to know if you've pinpointed that idea of what you want to be.
I feel like I am in the place of like, I want to be in a place where I want to set my daughter free. Like, I want to be in a place where I'm raising an independent human from the second she leaves my body.
Your body, cutting the umbilical cord right away, both metaphorically and physically. You're off to the races. Yeah.
I read this in Michelle Obama's book, how she was raised by her mother, who was just like always constantly like raising Michelle to be doing things on her own. That's what I kind of want too, right? It's like I'm raising something to set them free. Not to hold on to for my own insecurity or my need to feel needed, So I think that's the way to, for at least consciously right now, is what I'm working on, how to build, more independent women or more. So
do you feel like that's because that's might have been something you lacked growing up from your, like, was your mom a helicopter mom on your ass all the time? So you're just like, I'm gonna do it totally opposite when I'm a mom and go take some rest. Yeah,
I think the helicopter mom, it's like certainly something like that resonates. I mean, my mom has been a lot more. I mean, since I've graduated college, a lot more freeing. Some parents are a bit more like that, but I think, but I certainly just don't want to be like, okay, I don't want to have I don't want to have my daughter feel pressured to need to, I don't know, sort of pay attention to me. I don't know.
I'm tearing up a little bit for you.
You are?
Yeah. You can't. That's why I had to wear the hat and the glasses. So you can't.
I'm crying. Like, this is what I wish too. But yeah, no, I think that kind of makes sense to me. And I'm like, I don't want to hold on to I believe that you can fix your own mistakes. You can change whoever you want to be, and that's going to be the most important thing. Because, yeah.
Did you feel like your mom didn't want you to? Your mom was a helicopter parent, right? So she was very protective, but also like, there were pros and cons to that, right? Like you've become a very successful person. You're very accountable, and like part of that is probably because you're of the way you were brought up. Like you are her success story. Like
Oh,
maybe
hell
she was a
yeah.
hard, yeah. And I think that's like a lot of people see like their Asian upbringing this way too, especially when they have immigrant parents that are on their ass because we all came here for a better opportunity, and it's like this. And I think that's also where like some of the scarcity mindset comes in that we need to like actively unlearn for the next generation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so
So
too. And I certainly like so thankful that the way that she is, and she showed me by example of what it looks like to be an independent woman, and I would say I don't think I don't think it was as bad as some other helicopter parents, I think, who
yeah.
kind of see their children more as like you're an investment.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't think that, but I certainly think like I don't know. I think,
I
yeah, of course, like we always want to improve upon like how our parents showed up for us, right? And I think for me, I'm just like I want you to like I don't need my kids' money. Like I don't like I'm perfectly fine, and so like you just do what you want to do, and you like be the best version that you can be, think for yourself, and then come back home where you're always going to be safe. I think that's how I feel like I want to be.
Do you know what that reminds me of? It's like the first generation. Our grandfathers were warriors so that our fathers could be merchants so that their sons could be poets. I'm totally like probably butchering the quote. It was John Adams, John Quincy Adams.
John.
But
Yeah.
it's kind of like that. Like they had the hardship, so we're kind of like iterations of each matriarchal line. It's kind of very Joy Luck Club if you think about it. Like you're now the generation where you want your kids just like, yo, just be cool with yourself, just be happy. Like,
Mhm.
so I want you to grow up where you don't have to battle with this insecurity of people pleasing. And I think like that's what I would want my imaginary daughter to like grow up with, is just like if I were to have a kid, a girl, especially a daughter, like I would want her to kind of just like, a lot of my 35-year-old aha moments was almost like rewiring and unlearning a lot of stuff that kind of hit me around puberty. These messages that I got like about what it means to be a woman, how I'm supposed to behave or fall in line. But before teenager, I was a rambunctious kid. And it's almost like going back to that like rambunctiousness and like owning it and be like, you know what? This is authentically who I am, until people
Mhm.
like shamed it out of me. And like what
Mm.
the fuck, right? Oops, sorry. But
Mm.
I think, as I want my kid to just feel confident being themselves, like authentically themselves all the time, and not feel like they have to like, obviously don't be an asshole, but and be a good person, have morals and values, but like don't be afraid to be corny and cringy. Like it's
Mhm.
fine. Yeah.
It's
And I think
cool
that's
now.
it's
It's
cool. And
cool.
it's like, think about how like when we first started this podcast, how we were so afraid to be cringy. And I think that's like that was a weird shame thing that we needed to unlearn and just be okay with making mistakes. I think
Mhm.
like the thing my mom taught me was like, hey, don't make your own mistakes, learn from other people's mistakes. And that
Mm.
just kept me in paralysis by analysis mode for the longest time of just like watching other people, which is fine. But after a certain point, I need to get in there and get my hands dirty too. And make mistakes and be confident that I will recover from those mistakes. It's okay. I have to trust
Mm.
myself. And I
Mm.
think like, that sentiment was coming from a good place. And I like, and there is some validity to that statement, but don't take it too far. And I think for a long time I took it too much to heart, that I almost felt guilty when I wanted to really take bigger risks
Mm.
for myself. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, and I think that's also in line with what I have my resolution for at least my investment New Year's resolutions is to just to like just to jump right in. You know what I mean? Don't miss out on those opportunities. Just don't just get it to I don't know whatever your percentage is, but for me it's like 60%, right? It's like it's 60% good enough. It's ready. Let's just jump right in, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that is something that I learned think a lot from Tony Lynn from Link Multifamily, and feel like if you are just just get in there, and also from this podcast, it's like this was like our episode 1, season 1. Dear Lord, like like so it's just like you just kind of get your reps in, and don't be scared of losing in that money, because money will recover.
Yeah.
You will recover. But what you can't recover is just that moment, that opportunity, right? So yeah, so that is also another one of those
So
things.
is that your real estate investment resolution for next year? So what is your resolution in the real estate front?
Yeah, I think getting into the syndication deal. Yeah, so I
As an
wanna
LP or being a GP?
GP.
Nice. We've been
Yeah.
talking about this for 2-3 years. So
Yeah, see, it's just
yeah.
and it's a combination of like the market, but it's also a lot of relationship building too. And
Yes.
yeah, and then also being like unafraid of like I've said a no to a lot of investors, right? Or a lot of opportunities, because the relationship hasn't been quite right. Like the investment philosophies do not align with mine. And
Yes.
I know that in some ways like set me back or whatever, just kind of delay some things. But I think that's helped me fashion what kind of investor I really want to be, right? And I think to me, I've been like, I jive with investors or people that are maybe like you, just take no shit, just shows up authentically as themselves. No inflating of words, just kind of tells me like it is. Not afraid of saying like I fucked up,
Yeah.
but here's what we're doing, what I'm doing in order to remedy that situation. I think I've also learned this year that it's more important that you're addressing the issue rather than that you made a mistake.
Yeah, because
So that
mistakes
has
are going
been
to happen. You
yes.
just be confident in your ability to navigate those mistakes. And that's the biggest aha moment. It's not that you're not going to not make mistakes. Yes, create a plan so that you can minimize those mistakes. And this was the aha moment that I had to, I've been playing poker again a lot too. And it's what like I dilly dally back and forth because I feel like these two, real estate investment and playing poker, really speak to each other. Is that you're going to lose money. You're not going to win every single hand, right? It's just when you lose, know how to cut your losses and be confident and be like, okay, moving on to the next hand. You at the end of the day, and with investing, you're going to lose something. They're not all going to be home runs, but you want to try to win more than you lose. And I think and if you go into this with good fundamentals and you stick to those fundamentals, like you're in the long run, you will come out ahead more often, but you got to be ready to take those licks and those setbacks because they're going to happen. And it'll be, you can have the perfect plan and things like the market can crash and that's totally outside of your control. But if you're confident in your ability to be, smart and, what was the other, resourceful, and, you have the emotional EQ to kind of keep all your stakeholders like informed and confident in your ability to navigate the situation. I think we're ready, dude. You and I have been talking about being like, you've been talking about being a GP for a syndication since I met you. Like that's actually how we met. So it's amazing that in 2 years time, like season 3 of this podcast, we've been able to do it. Cause I've like for 2023, I'm ready to jump in and become a developer. And that's what I wanted to do from the jump. From like, we talked about like accidentally becoming real estate agents. And it's almost like I was a queen of my plan B because I was so scared of being a developer. And I think a lot of it is a lot of gatekeeping, so to speak, which is why I love that we have this podcast, because we kind of dispel a lot of the myths about, real estate investing is just for the boys. If you go into a room, you're just going to see a bunch of, white guys. And yeah, sure, that's the case. But I love how you said that, like, a lot of these opportunities out there don't align with your investment philosophy. And it's like, okay, I realize that like real estate development calls for creativity. And I think that, if you want to put what you want out there, the only person who can do it is you. and and like you need to follow, and it's the follow through. Like the resolution is the follow through. When we have this podcast again next year at the end of 2024, you're going to have launched your first syndication, and I'm going to have launched my first real estate development project.
All right.
And
Well,
we're going to talk about it.
This will be a thing, a clip, and they'll be
putting
like,
it out there, and I'm gonna shout you.
Manifesting.
Shouted out Tony, who like kind of emboldened you. I will shout out James, who has, you know, championed and kind of been my cheerleader for this from the get-go, even when I've had my own doubts about it, because I'd fall back into like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready, blah, blah, blah. He's like, dude, less qualified people are doing this than you are, and that kind of set me free, right? Like, you're just do it, you're ready. And you know what, like, trust in your ability. You have a whole team behind you. You have Tony behind you. I have James behind, like, it's good. Sorry, James, if I'm like putting everyone on blast, but like I think part of it is like we kind of need this, like, I know this is a feminist podcast, but it's like you need these male allies or to just kind of like, you know, a little bit of a push. And when men say, how can we help? I think it's in this way. It's this encouragement and showing up for us and saying to stick with it. Like, yeah, because sometimes men are weird about feminism, but I think, you know, James and Tony are the perfect examples of how you can be a great feminist, an active participant in empowering us.
Yeah. Okay, so our next question, what has been your favorite tip that actually worked for you in sticking with something?
Okay, accountability partners. That has been, and it comes back to relationships, right? Like, I realize that, and this is probably ADHD talking to you, like, if someone's not watching me work, I'm probably not gonna do it or not do it in time, right? If someone's like not on my ass. So I think what's worked for me, and I guess Alina sometimes, is we've set aside like workshop hours where we punch out stuff that needs to get done, and we've got some of those things going on right now. But yeah, finding an accountability partner, someone who's in alignment with what you're trying to do. It's like having a gym buddy to spot you. Going back to fitness, maybe I need a gym buddy too. I did have a gym. I did have a climbing buddy. Yeah, I should hit him up. Yeah.
Okay, let's go on. Well, I've been using Notion this year a lot. And I think I posted about this too, but in my marriage, I have now adopted software platforms. So I'm using Slack and Notion together, and it's actually has really made like the difference in my marriage. And it's super helpful just because like, I think in a way I've used Notion now to like basically write out all the things. So I have a habit tracker in there. I have my journal is in there. I even have like a brain dump section where just like whatever I need to workshop, like whether it's like I need to like figure out whether this deal really works, and then I just create a new file and then I just dump it out of my brain. You know, so I use Notion, and then I use like Slack to basically communicate to people, not at the second I have that aha moment, but like I put it in Slack so then my husband can see it. And then it's like he can see that I'm working on the thing, but then he takes his time to, whenever he is free, to work on those things. I think that has been actually just a game changer for us because we used to fight all the time, be like, can I answer this question later? Or like, can you, like, I'm in a flow right now. And we used to fight all that all the time because I'm like, I need to answer this question because it's in my brain, it's fresh, it's awesome. And then, but I actually realized Slack has been really helpful for that. And then it also just keeps a chain for like all the conversation. Yeah.
Slack sets the boundaries for you. It's setting boundaries for your husband. Like, Anita, get out of my flow state.
Yes. I think that's been really a big tip for me. But yeah, Notion has been a great way for me to collect all of the stuff, and I have like words of affirmation in there, and I have just like a list of the stuff I want to learn. So certainly that's a really great place to be. And yeah, I think the journaling too, putting it in Notion was also a great thing. I don't feel pressured. I used to, like, my last year resolution used to be like, I want to journal every day. I no longer feel that. I like just journal when I need to.
Yes.
So and I think that's been like, don't get make sure that you're like whatever you put on your New Year resolution, that it's not more work than it's actually being productive for the betterment of your life, right? It's like exercising every day, whether it's like meditation every day or journaling every day. Are you really putting more pressure on yourself, or is it actually needed? So now I just journal when I need to, when I really just have something on my mind, and then I just dump it into my journal, write like pages and pages until I'm completely empty, and then I can start moving on to the next thing.
You know,
So
you hit something. You know, that whole journaling every day thing. I was that person. I was that girl also. You know what's kind of replaced that? Like God said, Chat GPT. Chat GPT does the fucking journaling for me. I just write a sentence and be like, yo, can you expand on this idea for me?
you're not even
Like,
journaling, or you're just like filling in the blanks. You're just the check mark that you want.
well, kind of. It's like an ADHD hack that that I learned on on this podcast that I listened to. It's an ADHD hack. Is like utilize ChatGPT to kind of just knock out stuff, because like I'll get writer's block and I just need to see something in front of me, right? Like looking at that blank page is daunting, but like ChatGPT it's not perfect. Like ChatGPT is just a starting point just to get the ball rolling, and then you edit and you build from there. But like sometimes it's that getting from 0 to 1. And we talk about that in Real Estate Investments. It's just getting that idea from 0 to 1. Like I have to write an offering memorandum or business plan. And I'm just like, I don't even know where to start. ChatGPT, what is the table of contents in a business plan? Cool. ChatGPT, can you draft an abstract for me linking these two ideas together? Okay, it's not perfect, but let me reword it this way. And then it just that's how ChatGPT helps get me into the flow state. It's a catalyst. But it's not creating the thing for me, which is what a lot of people are worried about. It's just, it's doing the edit. I get to do the editorial thing and not the and it just does a messy thing for me. And I think that's yeah.
I love that. I think ChatGPT is also really useful in helping you create prompts for yourself. Let's say if you want to be like, I want to journal about something today, give me like a list of prompts where I can start with, and then I'll like I do know a lot of writers that actually do that, just to kind of get like their creativity jogged and going. So that's a great way if you are writing a book or something like that. And then I think, I use ChatGPT sometime in my sprints too, and especially when I'm in the learning mode of stuff too, when I don't know phrases, and I'll just use ChatGPT right next to it to help me break down like what that means, or like give me some ideas on how I might shape whatever I'm working on. So I am glad to be alive in a time where
where was this when we were in college? Oh my God.
I know, right? Oh my God. Yeah, well, okay. So if you had to pick a word or phrase for the year, what would it be for you?
Ooh. I would say visibility.
Oh, okay. Why?
I think well, for myself and putting myself out there, it's leading with authenticity and not hiding away. And I think that's a mental health thing too. It's like when I get depressed, I kind of like self-isolate, and then I don't want to like, do things that I'm supposedly the true me likes, because I just get depressed. But I think forcing myself to be visible, like whether it's doing more stand-up, like, which I've fallen off the wagon with that too. Like I was getting my reps in and I've just stopped showing up. But I also stopped playing poker for a while and I've started doing that again. So it's just being visible, showing up and getting the reps in. So maybe repetition, maybe follow through. The word of the year is follow through, Tiffany. Follow through on the ideas. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
1 hour comedy special, tight 5 minutes, whatever. Just follow through and workshop it over and over again. What about you?
Yeah, I love that. I think maybe I haven't fashioned the right sentence or a simplified way of saying this, but sort of like being okay with where I am now. I think. Yeah, because I think with just me and my last trimester now, and things are changing so rapidly, so fast. I'm actually like you don't see beyond this, but I have boxes up to my eyebrows because I'm moving. It's like I'm changing a new location, which has implications for my job. new kid and navigating all of that, and then just with a new kid every few months everything changes. So I think that the impatience part is I want to be present, but I also want to be like 10 steps ahead already. And so and that is just me. So, but I want to be more present, I guess, and like this, may not happen again. It might be the
Yeah.
last time I'm in this
Aw.
phase, and to be okay with it, and also I think I'm dealing with those challenges of like, what is my life gonna look like after maternity, right? It's like, it's it's sort of like, I feel like and women kind of go through this all the time because and actually statistically women make a lot of career changes during this time. They shift into different careers, and so I think I'm also kind of doing the same thing. I'm like, what is next after this phase of just getting myself settled? And so I kind of want to just be patient with myself, to be present, but also be um confident in myself that I know how to conceive my own life after having a kid. Like, it will be fine.
Yeah,
Pick up the
you're so
business and go home.
ready. I can't. You are so ready. If you need any kind of nudge from a third party, whatever. I don't think you do, but just if that makes you feel better.
Makes
But
me
what
also
is
think
it?
like, how do people have kids earlier? I'm like, it's like, you
They
need to have
don't.
like a mature, like the maturity level of like, in your 40s, in order to
Well,
deal with the onslaught of
what
this.
sucks is we're the most fertile when we're like teenagers and our prefrontal cortex isn't even like fully formed yet, like before we're 25, and that's when we're the most fertile. But what's that saying? The days are long, but the years are short, right? So
Yeah.
make every day count because you don't know how far. Like again, the days is the repetition on the follow through. 2 years ago, like you know how long it takes for us to put together a podcast or like that initial jump, and look how far we've come, I
Yeah, we
guess.
basically just spent
Yeah.
like an hour talking to each other, and that's the entire like
Well,
that's the
yeah,
entire
but you know what's so great is
kind
the
of.
showing up as you are. We have this rigid. Sometimes some episodes we have like rigid outlines, or we felt like we needed to have that outline because in the beginning we weren't very structured. But now I feel like we've kind of hit our own flow. That I actually love that we can meander in these conversations because it's been. I was telling Anita, I was like, these are our later episodes. I can finally like play back and listen to them and not hate them. So yeah, and it's like, oh, I like how we've like found our voice. And early on in our podcast days, before we recorded the podcast, we had a note from one of our early supporters, I guess, who told us to do like a chemistry test with each other, where we would just we were just asking each other questions, like random questions that we found from like some New York Times of like 100 questions to get to know someone better. And they were ridiculous. But I remember one question, you were like, hey Tiffany, what's your favorite smell? Like some of these questions are so stupid. But I like now we can have like these really deep conversations. And I think, we kind of hit that from the jump. I think our chemistry was like when we met through Compass, through our brokerage, there was a immediate kind of like, I don't know, what would you say? Would you say we're I felt like it took us a few months to feel comfortable in our partnership and firm and like, hey, we're good for it. We fill in the things that the other person we just fill in the gaps for each other. We're better together than we are apart. Or at least I think this podcast, I think, it's better with each other, and I couldn't do this by myself. So
No,
yeah.
absolutely
No.
not.
Shut up. Absolutely not. I could probably, but you definitely know.
I'm just kidding. It might not be about real estate at the very end, like by episode 5.
All right, if Anita just did the podcast, it would just all be market updates, guys. It's like, hey.
Yeah, and then Tiffany would be like, it would just be about ranting about New York men. You'd be like, the bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so actually,
okay.
good segue to take us home. What is your resolution for the podcast, for this podcast? Yeah.
Well, I think my resolution for the podcast, I mean, for personal development, I would say like I like I said last podcast, I get super squeamish when about listening to my own voice. But it is a point about like personal development and sharpening those skills, right? So I need to do that more and just be more comfortable with revision. And I want to work on my interviewing skills as well, you know. So I think to be more articulate and um to be better interviewers. I want to be Michael Barbaro. You know, like
You
what
should
my
watch the
goal. Yeah, I want to be Michael Barbaro, but you know, obviously, that's a huge gap to fill.
Michael Barber. I want to be George Stephanopoulos.
You're more in line the path of Joe Rogan a little.
Oh my
bit.
god!
I'm sorry to all the feminists.
I
out there.
should
hate
start
all fucking Joe
smoking
Rogan.
while we're on the podcast. I should just like start grinding, like, and just like roll a joint while like we're talking with our guests.
It sounds like I listen to Joe Rogan. I do not. I don't even know what that reference is. Even.
The Lee
Okay.
experience, the
Yes,
Rogan.
but I
Alright,
think overall for the podcast as a for SARE Ladies as a whole, I think I would love to be more featured on obviously on different podcasts. So if you are
Yes.
Pockets investor and you're listening out there, we would love to be talking about our passion, which is servicing this, talking about diversity and real estate and just our experience with it, and we have a lot to share.
Yeah.
So we would love to be on that. And I want to be seeing more of our women doing more like organic meetups as well.
Dude, you just I swear you didn't even see my notes. I have the same thing written down for the podcast as well. And it goes back to the theme of visibility. Like, and one of the tactics of doing that, like an actionable item that we should do by the end of this year, is get on Bigger Pockets, get on Asian Hustle Network, and I added Esther Perel's podcast to the list as well. Okay. Have you listened to it? Her podcast. All right. So I've been on a masterclass binge. So I listened to the George Stephanopoulos one and I listened to the Esther Perel one. Esther Perel has a podcast where like all her guests
podcast every week.
Oh, do you? Okay. So they're all free. I don't know if they're free. They're probably free consults, but it's a one-time consult. They're not her ongoing patients. So I want us to get on there and talk about our business partnership and have her be our little business relationship coach. I think that'd be so amazing because we're both like such Esther Perel fangirls. I would die if we got on her podcast. I care about that one more than Bigger Pockets and Asian Hustle Network, actually. I just want to get on the Esther Perel podcast.
I also love Esther Perel, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like she works on like real relationship issues. Like, I don't know. Anyway,
she was talking through like some couple. It was a gay couple, but they also owned a bakery together. But some might argue that we're kind of gay too. Work wife.
Okay. All right. Next. Okay, so now we're gonna head into our market predictions.
Okay.
Yeah. And
go into it.
If you guys don't know, I actually have a newsletter where I actually do market updates every month. And so I talk about just the nerdy real estate stuff there. So I will drop the link for there, and if you are interested in learning more about that, but kind of thought I would bring a couple of those to the forefront. And of course, just a word of warning, I come from California, and Tiffany's a specialist in New York, so we might have a little bit of a differing opinion about these. Okay. So let's talk interest rates, obviously, because it is the thing that everyone is talking about. So at the time of this recording, 30-year fixed mortgage rates are 7%. So we expect rates to drop and for sellers to come back, but not at the rate of pandemic, right? So I don't know about you, Tiffany, but I see a few more open houses littered on the weekend here and there, but maybe just like 2 or 3 signs in maybe my neighborhood, and a few more, but certainly not the 15 that was around during the pandemic. And so I think that with the Fed is going to be dropping rates so there's going to be a few sellers that are going to peep back out of their gopher holes, and if they are motivated to sell, but certainly competition is going to be getting up there, so you might not be landing those crazy deals that you may have been, so that maybe that bus has already left. but you're going to kind of get a little bit more cream of the crop. But not to say that you're going to get the ideal place or an ideal investment that you want. Expect to be doing renovations, expect to be putting some elbow grease into it. But you're going to see a little bit more and certainly more competition out there. I think for us, because we're such in hot markets, it's still going to be above asking mostly, right?
Yep.
So I would say, so yeah. What would you think on the New York side?
Yeah, I'm seeing something similar as well. Highest and bests are back in market activity, and the appetite is coming back. People and it got like Anita attacked this from like a projection side, but I will be the yin yang to that and say like you have to be able to make those tactical adjustments regardless of what outcome there is, right? Like you have to have a game plan for each type of market environment. And as I'm saying this, I just help my buyers participate in the highest and best, and you can't be bid it. You have to want it. And the sellers are now being able to like select, their whoever is being the most competitive. Like you need to be able to align yourself with an agent that you trust, that, if you want to win it, you have to be prepared to spend more than what you're used to from previous years. But that's also where becoming a strong operator post closing is so important, because if you're spending more, you need to know how to keep your operations lean and efficient. And so that's kind of like, yeah, have trust your experts if you're not like a full-time investor, like just looking into things, and just be able to know how to navigate, different types of situations and be nimble. Even if you have to take a little bit of a loss on the acquisition, you at least have the position, because maybe like 2-3 years down the line, even if you think you're overpaying right now, it might even be more 2 to 3 years down the line when the competition, goes up, and you're going to kick yourself for not putting your best foot forward on the highest and best because you were scared and on the sidelines. But you know what? Scared money don't make money, guys.
Yeah, and I think I also want to talk about New York and San Francisco a little bit, just because it's interesting because rents are coming back up on both markets. A lot of it, I think, has to do with the high restrictions for developments and how hard it is to build out here. So it's the renter demands are certainly coming back, and so I would expect, especially on the East Coast to the Northeast side, that we're seeing a lot of pickup, especially in the multifamily space. And then I think on the second prediction is that we're going to see a lot of Class A and Class C's property multifamily coming back on the market, right? So it is, they're slowly creeping back, but there's obviously, if you are in the syndication space, you know that a lot of people are just like kind of waiting for the ball to drop. But Class A's and Class C's are pretty much the only two types that we're seeing right out there right now. Either the expensive ones are basically the ones that are so, heavily damaged or mismanaged or whatever. Those are pretty much the two that we're going to be seeing in this, I think, this first quarter. I think syndicators are going to be scrambling to try to recover their properties as much as they can, work with their lenders to try to find other deals. But the Class C's are going to sell. Obviously the Class B is going to be super competitive, and it's like you better be prepared to be overspending, because a lot of people are shoring up money right now to get by.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you just want that position, right? Like, and this is what bugs me, like grinds my gears about highest and best with buyers who are scared or playing with scared money, and you don't know the mechanics of how financing works. Like you're a beginner. If you understand the mechanics of financing and you're confident in what your plan looks like post close, and it's at the end of the day, it's not that scary to put forth that bigger number out there just to lock in that position, because you can put like, I hate working with investors who just shoot a bunch of lowball offers that don't stick, because like now you're just wasting everyone's time. Like you can shoot all these lowball offers you want. If you're never winning any of them, you don't, at the end of the day, you don't have a property. And no, like, what are you really investing in? You're just like sending insulting offers back and forth. And you need to play to win. And to play to win, you gotta give the seller like set yourself apart from the other buyers. And that's so important. Like everyone thinks that, it's always buy low, sell high. Like you have to have some empathy and EQ on the other side. If you were the seller, would you want to entertain a lowball offer when there's other buyers who clearly want it? Like the people who want it, they're the ones that are getting it. So I think a lot of it has to be a mentality and adjustment as well as you're participating in the real estate marketplace. It's not, just numbers. It's very psychological. There's a strong psychological aspect to it as well as along with the financial instrument pieces of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so next prediction. So according to CBRE, Dallas has kept up as one of the biggest multifamily investment markets over the past several years. It's been also one of the markets with lowest average prime multifamily cap rates. And so predict that these trends will continue. It's just there is a lot of supply going on in Dallas right now. And it kind of makes sense if you think about the geography of Dallas. They just continue to expand and continue to encourage development. And demand is also kept up. So I think that a lot of people are predicting that it'll sort of remain the same. And so Dallas will be one of the most liquid markets for multifamily investments in 2024.
And that's a legislation thing with Texas too. You have to be very familiar with state laws and if they're supportive of a development, of like an investment, strategy. Some states are more investor friendly than others, but Texas is really everybody's looking at Texas, right? Anita, you've got a place in Texas.
Yes, I am in the Texas market as well, and I have properties in Dallas. But yes, so
is your syndication going to be in Texas? Your upcoming multifamily syndication for 2024.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. We don't endorse funds, but we do endorse Anita's fund.
Shout out, y'all. Okay. Lastly, so I think the economy with the 2024 election is going to be a little bit more optimistic just because I believe that the deciding factor for who's going to win the election is going to be the one that will be is going to address the economy most directly, right? So, Biden's economic approval rate is sitting currently at 37%. And so that we expect that he's going to make measures to make sure that with this presidency that his improvements are going to be felt, right? So I think it will be optimistic. So just watch out for that. Yeah. Don't know what it's going to, we do not make election predictions here. Obviously we'll just internally support who we support, but
and also register to vote if you haven't already.
Oh my God, if you're not voting, you need to be voting. Okay. To be honest, man, you can't mess in real estate unless you are actively participating in, in laws, right? Because it's so intertwined. So.
Oh yeah, weren't we supposed to run for presidency?
You were supposed to run for presidency. I said that was that's not happening.
Because we just turned legal age to be U.S. president this year. You have to be minimum 35.
Sure.
So I'm
all
ready.
All right.
Well, I outed our age too. Sorry, but we can be president of VB. Vote for us. Maybe not 2024. Maybe that's a 2028 thing. We'll be back.
Okay, all right, y'all. Thank you for sticking with us for season 3, episode 1. We'll see you next time.
Happy New Year!
Thanks for listening. But before you go, we've got a quick, subtle Asian real estate update for you.
Hey everyone, Michelle Ngo Wong from Lotus Rising here. I'm excited to tell you about our second SARE Ladies and Lotus Rising retreat happening in Oahu, Hawaii. Join us February 1st, 2024 for an unforgettable 4-day weekend retreat dedicated to Asian women's wealth empowerment. Experience our brand new property secluded in paradise for an unforgettable adventure of self-discovery, wellness, and wealth manifestation to kick off 2024 with your sorority sisters. Don't miss this transformative opportunity to rise to your best self. Spots are limited. Reserve your spot today.
Thank you for tuning in to the SARE Ladies podcast hosted by Anita Wong and Tiffany Lee.
If you enjoyed our show, please leave us a review or follow SARE Ladies on Spotify and Instagram. And also click on our show notes to subscribe to our newsletters to stay on top of our news and upcoming events. Until next time, Pod Squatters.